Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UPMC Rooney Southside facility here as the Steelers get ready for a big game this week against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm Bob Pompiani, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews, and we welcome all our viewers on Pittsburgh CW as well as the Steeler digital platforms. Wish you in advance a happy holiday week. And the Steelers would love to give you a little late week gift if they can, and that would be a win in Kansas City. They're coming off a come-from-behind win against Tennessee, and what a wild and wacky AFC North we have here right now, with both the Bengals and Ravens tied at 8-6, the Steelers right behind at 7-6-1, and then it is Cleveland at 7-7. They're back in the basement after they lost last night in that two-day delayed game against the Raiders. So there's a lot going into this game. Mike Tomlin will be here in just a matter of seconds to talk about the injury situation and also winning last week and looking ahead to a tough place to play in Kansas City, which has won 7 games in a row. So they, of course, have gotten back on track offensively, led by Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce had a huge game last week with 10 catches, well over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that combination has been very good for Kansas City. And then you have to worry about Tyreek Hill and the other parts of that offense, especially at that place. It's a difficult assignment, but the Steelers have had success there. We'll see if they can again this week. You'll see the game Sunday afternoon, 4:25 on KDKA. There'll be some injuries to update. Also last week, the key was obviously turnovers. They got 4 of them. Tennessee got none, and that was the difference of the game. Mike Tomlin always talks about protecting the ball on offense and trying to take it away on defense. Well, last week's game was a case in point for that, textbook style. They lost most of the statistical categories, but they won that one, and that was the big one, and a come-from-behind 19-13 win over Tennessee. 16 unanswered points in that second half, and they limited Tennessee. And right now, the AFC in general is pretty much up in the air as you go down the last 3 games of the season. So many teams in contention, so many teams separated by 1 game when it comes to playoff positioning. So you can bet this is going to go down to the very end of the season when the Steelers have to end their season against Baltimore. We're going to right now turn it over to Mike Tomlin with his press conference. We'll be back afterwards to analyze what he has to say. Coach?
Good afternoon. As always, I'll start with a synopsis of our last performance. I just really appreciate the effort of our guys. It was a gritty game. It required a gritty approach. The guys didn't blink, and they made the necessary plays, particularly down the stretch, to secure victory, really in all 3 phases. I know the defense got recognized a lot because they provided the turnovers, but the offense did what was necessary in terms of changing the short field in the scoring possessions, and the special teams banged field goals through, and collectively we were able to get it done. The best way to probably describe the game, in terms of what produced the victory is, we weren't able to get a lot of the things done that we wanted to get done offensively, but one of the things we were able to get done is we took care of the football. When you take care of the ball, you give yourselves a chance to win. We did have 1 fumble that was negated by a roughing the passer. So largely, we took care of the ball. We got turnovers. We put our offense on the short field. Really, I thought the first half deficit was created by net punting, the field position component of play. We didn't do a good enough job with our punt group. They had a big return. We missed on a couple of punts in terms of quality, and I thought that provided the short field that produced the points in the first half of the game. I thought another significant component of play was our ability to stand up in red zone defense and make them settle for field goals and keep them within striking distance until we caught fire, until we could do enough collectively to begin the process of putting together drives that produce points and getting us where we needed to be. Just really appreciative of the effort. I think you grow from outings such as that. You gain confidence in terms of what you're capable of individually and collectively. I think you learn that the NFL game is a 60-minute game, and let's face it, we got a lot of guys, young guys, and so experiences like that are good for their individual growth and development as professionals. Our global approach in terms of smiling in the face of adversity is a learned one. Young guys that had helmets on, that played roles in that game, hopefully are shaped in a positive way because of that collective success, and hopefully we can build upon it as we move forward. I know that that's our intentions. From a health standpoint, Freiermuth Pat is in the concussion protocol as always. We'll let the protocol be our guide. as he works back to practice, and then the quality of that practice participation coupled with the evaluations that come from my medical experts will be our guide. Wormley has a groin that didn't allow him to finish the game. He's being evaluated and being aggressive in treatment. It'll be the same approach with him. His practice availability and the quality of that work will be our guide. Bugs, Isaiah is still dealing with an ankle. We got several guys that have missed time that are working their way back or attempting to work their way back. Guys like Dotson and JC are in the practice component of working their way back now, and so we'll see what the quality of that practice work looks like in determining their availability. Now I'll turn my attention toward Kansas City. They need no endorsement from me. They're a dynamic bunch, particularly over the last 7 weeks or so when they've been on this win streak. Not only have they displayed dynamic offense, but they've also displayed rock-solid defense that's been turnover-driven. And so we got a lot of work ahead of us. We got to take care of the ball. We got to score points. The 19 points that we scored last week, I don't think it's realistic to think that that's going to be enough to get out of the stadium with victory this time around, particularly just given their recent outputs and what's transpired with them this year. I think they've lost 4 games. I think 3 of those 4 games that they lost, the opponent has scored more than 30 points. And so, that's a blueprint, if you will, of a traditional way of winning the game. Obviously, the games write themselves, but we better come in being prepared to score points. We better be prepared to come in to minimize them, and particularly in situational football, in an effort to get off on third down. Man, you can't have senseless third down losses from a defensive perspective. You got to get off on the short field and make them settle for field goals. If they're scoring touchdowns, you're going to have tough sledding. And that's something that they have done particularly well in recent weeks, man. Their starts have been significant. The early outset of games, they've been up by 14, up by 10, up by 9, and so forth. A couple of possessions into the game for them and their opponent. And coupled with our recent experience, that's just something that can't transpire. We can't play the game in that way, particularly within the comforts of Arrowhead Stadium. And so that's some of the things that we're acknowledging as we prepare, particularly as it pertains to them. Let's start first with Mahomes. He's unbelievably talented. He's big-time competitive. He's got arm talent. He's got leg talent. He's got football intellect. He's extremely difficult to trick. At the very early portions of the week, I put their sack reel on, and it became evident to me on the sack reel that he's only been sacked, I think, 1 time this year versus pressure. And I think that speaks to how he performs and they perform versus pressure. Man, he makes good and quick decisions. He gets the ball into the hands of guys that are not only dangerous in terms of getting open, but are dangerous after they get the ball. Travis Kelce is the best in the business. And the reason he's the best in the business is he is unquestionably the best in the business at run after he catches the ball for a tight end. This is a guy, I think, that has 580 yards this year on run after alone. His run after numbers make him a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. This guy, what he is a number 1 receiver. Whether you identify him as a tight end or simply ineligible, he is a number 1 receiver in our game. His stats this year, but not only this year, but over the course of his career, indicate that the play that he made in overtime last week is indicative of what he's capable of in terms of once he gets the ball in his hands. And that's what makes him and them so dangerous. They can beat you over the top with Tyreek Hill, and he creates unbelievable issues from that standpoint down the field from a matchup standpoint. But he's also dangerous run after, as is Kelce and Hardman and others. He's got a nice arsenal of weapons to distribute the ball to. Can't say enough about their backs. Also, Hilaire, Williams, the LSU tandem, they work very well together. Hilaire's missed some time due to injury. It's really given Williams an opportunity to carve out a role for himself. Their remade offensive line has done a really good job of keeping him upright and doing a good job of getting hats on hats. But as I mentioned, his talents are so challenging. They don't see a lot of pressure or a lot of unique blitzes. There's just the risk reward associated with trying to get after Mahomes in that way. And I think everybody knows that or has discovered that. And so that minimizes some of the things that they have to deal with. And that's just a component of having a guy as dangerous as Mahomes. On the defensive side of the ball, can't say enough about Chris Jones. His versatility is very evident. They were lacking in some edge depth early on in the season. He played outside, was a dominant force outside, has been a dominant force inside. I think one of the things that's allowed them to gain some traction from a defensive perspective is in recent months, they've been able to play him almost exclusively inside, and you feel his dominance and presence, not only as a pass rusher in terms of producing sacks, but his ability to disrupt the overall offensive game, play the run, bat passes. He's a catalyst, much like Simmons was in the ways that I described Simmons last week as we prepared to play Tennessee. But they got quality players on all levels. I like what's happening at the linebacker level, the emergence of their off-the-ball linebackers, Bolton and Gay. Bolton being a rookie who's just grown over the course of the season, not only in terms of the quality of his play, but his role. Will Gay also, I think being a second-year guy or so out of Mississippi State, you're seeing growth and development in his play, and thus I think you're seeing growth and development in their overall play. They've done a really good job of hardening their division of labor. They got a 3-safety rotation with Honey Badger and some others, man, that is formidable. They're versatile, they're interchangeable parts. They mix up and play bastardized zones. They play man-to-man, a variety of man-to-man. They'll play Honey Badger deep. They'll play him down low in zones. They'll blitz them. They're really challenging in that way. They've really gotten solid on the edge. They weren't solid on the edge earlier in the year. Obviously, they didn't have Melvin Ingram, and Frank Clark was a less than available at times. They were playing with younger, inexperienced guys and some backups. That component of their game has gotten solid as well. But when you really look at them over the last 6 or 7 weeks, the turnover component has been what's big for them. Now, they've been in game circumstances where people have been behind, and oftentimes that pressure bursts pipes and creates a climate that's ripe for turnovers. But neither here nor there, whether the circumstances are producing the turnovers or the turnovers themselves are producing the circumstances, we got to acknowledge that they're a group that's been one of the tops in the league at taking the ball away, particularly of late. And if we want to have a chance to do what it is we desire to do, we got to take care of the football in a big way in this game. We got some challenges, obviously. We're playing in a road game environment. We haven't played very well on the road, acknowledging that. We're not worried by that, to be quite honest with you. We can spend a lot of time lining up and identifying our worries. We're excited about the opportunity that we have in front of us, the things that we've done to position ourselves for it. And equally as important, what are we going to do in preparation? We got a big week ahead of us. We're excited and blessed to participate, obviously, in the holiday week. But professionally, man, we got some big days ahead of us, and we look forward to heading to Kansas City and putting our skills on display against a group that's a AFC Titan, if you will, one of the teams that perennially, at least in recent years, have been in it in a big way. And we're excited about pitting our skills versus theirs. I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Okay, a reminder, please raise your hand if you have a question for Coach Tomlin. First up, Dale Lawley. Dale, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned how they had to play Chris Jones outside early in the season, and then the addition of Melvin Ingram allowed them to bump him back inside a little bit more, solidified their edge. Did you weigh that at all when you traded him, knowing that you would play these guys down the stretch?
We didn't weigh their circumstances, no. We weighed our circumstances, not only the tangible element of our circumstances, but the intangible quality that makes up team. Like I mentioned, when we moved them, we had an opportunity to get value for them, and so that was entertaining and interesting to us. But also, to be quite honest with you and blunt, Melvin no longer wanted to be here. And for us, we prefer volunteers as opposed to hostages. And we believe that that's a formula that really allows us to come together in ways that you can't measure, to do the things that we were able to do last week, to smile collectively in the face of adversity and do what's required to get out of stadiums with necessary wins. And so that's just more of a function of us and the things that we value, and less about Kansas City, the things that they needed, or the prospects of playing them later in the season.
Jerry Dulac.
Hey, Mike, how do you control Tyreek Hill over the top while at the same time worrying about Kelsey in the middle of the field for all the reasons you cited earlier?
Control is a strong word. I don't know that control would be the word that I use. I think the appropriate word is minimize, because you're not going to take those guys out of the game. They are who they are. They pack bags and go to the Pro Bowl, if you will, annually, and rightfully so, because their talents and the skill set. And not only that, but the schematic continuity that they have in terms of what it is they do. Coach Reed, Eric Bieniemy have been together for a number of years along with those guys, and along with their talents, that's what makes them a very difficult nut to crack. And so, you can't do one particular thing. They're going to solve that. You got to have a well-rounded menu, and you got to be able to execute that menu at a relatively high level from a detail standpoint if you want to minimize those two guys that you mentioned.
Brooke Breyer.
Yeah, Mike, when you look at Presley Harvin and the way that he's played this season, he's had some punts that are really great and then some ones that are more KV, as you would say. How do you address consistency with him at this point in the season, especially seeing it seems like he has some external things that are also going on in his life that are making things difficult?
He and we smile in the face of adversity, and we send him back out there. We going into game 14 or so. This guy hadn't played 14 games at Georgia Tech, and so he's facing the challenges that most rookies face that are significant contributors from wire to wire like he is. There's going to be some ups and downs during the course of the journey. I have the perspective in being in the job that I've been in a long time and have an understanding relative to that. And so we're committed to him and his talents. We'll keep sending him out there. We expect him to work his way through it, and we'll expect him to smile in the face of adversity that his rookie season is presenting to him and grow from it.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, Mike, in venues where there's been a lot of fans.
What you just said there at the very beginning.
I'm sorry. In some of the venues you've been in, like LA, Minnesota, they were indoor, but you had some communication issues. Kansas City's a very loud venue. How does that expect that to be a problem, and how do you deal with that?
I expect it to be a problem, but a problem that we're capable of overcoming if we prepare in the right way for the environment, and we minimize some of the onus on that communication, particularly line of scrimmage wise. With the number of young guys that we have, we just better be cognizant of their first time in the environment. It won't be a first time for guys like me or Ben, but it'll be a first time for a lot of guys, and that component of it is something that we're very cognizant of and will be in preparation.
Tim Benz.
Mike, you talked about how good they are for the catch, specifically Kelsey. How do you feel your tackling has been lately, especially against Tennessee, and how important is that percent of your game to minimize what they do after the catch?
How it's been lately is really irrelevant. It better be up to snuff on Sunday. These guys are unique. They are. And so to compare them to others from a run after capability standpoint is not something that's realistic. I'm not going to seek comfort in past performances based on that perspective. Kelsey's the best in the world at the tight end position and run after. They got guys like Hill and Hardman who are 4.2 and 4.3 in the 40. If they get space, they're dangerous people. And so we're going to be challenged in ways maybe that we haven't in that regard. And so forget how we've performed. We better be at our best in terms of tackling the catch and minimizing that component of their arsenal.
Jeff Hathorn.
Hey, Mike, how much time does it take for you to call defenses? How much does that take a lot of time away from some of your other duties as head coach? How do you try to balance all of that?
It depends on the week or the specific instance. I highly involve myself in all three phases of the game, sometimes more than others. It just really depends on the opponent, the circumstances, and so forth. But I've been on the job a long time, and I got 15 years of experience in terms of managing it. It's a lot easier in 2021 than it was in 07.
Chris Carter.
Mike, we talked to Mika yesterday, and he talked about how him and Edmonds have become a 1-2 punch. What can you say about what their level of communication, the trust you have in them, does for you guys on the back end to maybe run some more defensive packages that could confuse Patrick Mahomes and help you in that situation?
They've got continuity now. They've played together for a number of years. Both former first rounders from the same draft. They're getting to the point of their career where their snap experience aids them individually and collectively. And so we're just, reaping the rewards of that continuity and that gained experience that they have individually and collectively. I think it's reasonable for that to manifest itself in terms of menu variation, disguises, communications, all the things that make safety play critical, and particularly when you're facing good people such as Mahomes in Kansas City.
When you talk about facing adversity as a learned thing, you have truly this year gotten many, many key contributions from veteran players, whether it's Joe Hayden's tackle at the end of the game or TJ Watt. How is that something that's learned? Does it have to do with just getting the reps? Does it just have to do with getting a comeback win? Does it have to do with the nature of these players?
To be quite honest with you, when you're young and inexperienced, you're capable of blinking when things get tough. When the road gets narrow, you make mistakes, you lack detail, you lack focus, you lack communication skills and so forth. The more that you're in those circumstances, you learn and you're shaped by success, particularly in those experiences. And it's as reasonable to expect there to be more awareness because of those experiences, more communication, more playmaking, more comfort, if you will. And so that's why it's significant.
Alan Saunders.
Yeah, Mike, in that same vein, you're talking about in-game situations where the stakes are elevated, but your whole team is in a situation right now where the stakes are elevated. You've got 3 games left, probably need to win at least 2 of them. Can that carry over to a global perspective and not just an in-game one?
No, I was talking globally as well as in-game. And we're faced with challenging circumstances over the last 3 weeks, like you mentioned, but so are most of our opponents. And that's why I always talk about dealing with circumstances relatively well, meaning compared to those that we're competing against. And that's a significant component of it. How well we deal with the circumstances, what will be enough, I don't know, but we better do more than those we're competing against.
No Strackbeam.
Hey, Mike, Minka said yesterday that at this point in the season, paying attention to your body is just as important as anything. How do you do that while also trying to keep practice physical to stop these slow starts?
I didn't acknowledge that I had planned on keeping practices physical this week. So I agree with Minka. We're going to take care of their bodies.
Dale Lowley.
Mike, just to be clear, you mentioned Kevin Dotson as being a practice participant this week. Does that mean you intend to activate him or bring him back? Okay.
Correct. I intend to start the 21-day window of his availability this week.
Jerry Dulac.
Hey, Mike, because Najee is such a big part of your offense, especially running the ball, but also touching, are you noticing teams paying more attention to him as the season goes on?
No doubt. I think he's with each game tape, he's more of a known commodity. And so, he gets attention that's reflective of that. It's just like teams are paying more attention to Chase in Cincinnati now than they were early in the year. He had to run by a few people before that became real. I think young players earn their reputations throughout their rookie year, and over the course of the season, people respond accordingly based on what it is they see. I would imagine Parsons is getting more attention in Dallas in terms of getting him blocked than he was in September, for example.
Brooke Pryor.
Yeah, Mike, you guys are now in the NFL as a whole is dealing with more COVID-19 protocols. Is your team responding in a way that you feel like is going to keep you healthy through this last crucial game stretch?
I've been extremely pleased with our attitude and our approach in terms of dealing with COVID. Our agenda is to make it a winning edge for us. We need to deal with it relatively well, meaning we need to deal with it better than others. And I like the mindset and the actions of our group in that regard.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, Mike, what did you think Lane there, coming back from the injury and you expect maybe to get a little more from him down the stretch?
I missed the beginning of it. I didn't hear who you were referring to.
Rob Spillane.
I was appreciative of his efforts. It was good to get him back in uniform. We worked him in the ways that we worked some of the other guys in that were working their way back, Carlos Davis, Joe Hayden. We had them all on the pitch count. It's reasonable to expect that to continue and increase where earned. And Rob did a good job, and we'll see where this week leads us.
Okay, three more. Jeff Hathorn.
Mike, especially if Pat can't go beyond Zach, what are your options at tight end?
You know, I hadn't spent a lot of time pondering the hypotheticals. You guys got our roster, not only our active roster, but our practice squad. Our answers are in-house if he's unavailable.
Tim Benz.
Right, going back to some of your comments about Mahomes, the ability that he has to use to keep plays alive, extend plays, and also run, obviously break the pocket. Is the goal to kind of him in as you've done with some other mobile quarterbacks this year? You have to treat him almost like Lamar in that regard. He's got a great throwing arm.
Man, this guy's got he checks all the boxes from a talent standpoint, and so I'm not going to treat him like anybody. I'm going to treat him like Mahomes because that's his skill set. And so he's going to challenge us in ways that we haven't been challenged. And that's what you love as a competitor. But also that's probably what's going to determine the quality of the day for us and for him. And so we got a lot of work ahead of us.
Final one, Jeff Hathorn.
Mike, you mentioned the tackling earlier. I know you went over 200 yards again with the rush defense, but did you see some improvement or something you can build on for the rest of the year, at least in minimizing some of the things that Tennessee did?
Boy, I did. I thought Minka was exceptional in the game. We still had gap integrity issues that we've had, particularly in recent weeks. And to be quite honest with you, at times that comes when you're playing with some younger and inexperienced guys and guys that are, at the outset of their career in terms of gaining footing. And so, there's going to be some breakouts. There's going to be some lack of gap integrity. I thought that Minka was exceptional in Tennessee in minimizing some of that damage. And with his open grass tackling, I don't know how many tackles we credited him with, 12 solos or what have you. The nature of those tackles, those are angle open grass tackles. I can't say enough about what Minka's done in that area in an effort to shore up that component of our play. And we still got miles to go, to be quite honest with you. But the efforts that he's provided us has been a shot in the arm in terms of minimizing some of that damage.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Mike Tomlin there after his press conference here. Missy Matthews joins me of Steelers.com. And Missy, a lot of stuff about injuries. Pat Freiermuth remains in concussion protocol. They'll monitor that as they go on the week. It makes you wonder about backup tight ends because Ebron's out, and we know that if Freiermuth can't go, Kevin Rader's on the roster. Zach Gentry's been good. Anyone else come to mind?
Yeah, well, I think the thing with Pat Freiermuth is you have to play by the rules of the concussion protocol. There's certain things that have to happen. This is also his second concussion in just a number of weeks, so you might want to be a little extra careful with that as well. But, we saw Zach Gentry step in after Freiermuth had to go to the locker room on Sunday against the Titans, but Kevin Rader was dealing with a hip injury heading into that game, so maybe that's one of those guys that could slowly work his way back into practice this week and be available in KC just in case, even if Freiermuth is able to go.
The other injury is Chris Wormley, who's been playing very well. I mean, he's had to because of so many injuries on that defensive line. He has a groin. We've seen a lot of groin injuries this year, so you don't know how that's going to linger. But certainly they need as much depth coming through in big situations as ever, given all of these injuries. And that would be one area. Isaiah Buggs has been out for a while. You wonder who's going to be available on game day this week.
I know that is the thing with the defensive line, just the number of injuries, the loss of not having Stephon Tuitt, losing Tyson Alualu early in the season, but Carlos Davis was able to play on Sunday against the Titans. Coach said he was similar to Joe Hayden and was on a pitch count, so maybe that will increase or have to increase depending on what happens with Wormley. So I think, they don't practice until tomorrow, and, the past few weeks they've been doing pads on Wednesday, and Coach said they're going to take it easy this week, take care of their bodies. There are still, just a few games left of the regular season, and it's a different year with an extra game, so it's definitely something to watch. I think also, the offensive line guys, Kevin Dotson, J.C. Hassenhauer, sounds like their 21-day clock, they're still in IR. To return to practice will start, which, of course, the depth on the offensive line also an issue.
Yeah, they need all those guys as this progresses. Only 3 weeks left in this regular season, and it is wide open right now. We'll talk more about the standings. We're going to talk about some of the things Mike Tomlin said about Presley Harvin, as well as Melvin Ingram, as we continue live right here, Pittsburgh CW and Steeler digital platforms. This is the Mike Tomlin press conference on a Tomlin Tuesday.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Hey, Minka, you've been around now a while in the NFL. How many defensive backs make that play that Joe made at the end of that game, just knowing where the sticks were and, making that tackle and sticking them back?
Yeah, not too many. Joe has been around for a long time, has a lot of game experience, and you could tell just by the urgency that he approached the tackle, that he knew that he was sticks aware, and being sticks aware is a really not a quality you find in a lot of DBs. So you can tell Joe has that experience and that wisdom, honestly, to know. He could catch this ball, but I gotta go make this tackle. So it was a big play for sure for us, and that just speaks to who Joe is and what that says about him.
Dale Lally, DK.
Yeah, man, I'm just interested in how you've seen Terrell grow in your time working together. He seems to be more instinctive now than he was early in his career, making more of those anticipation plays.
Yeah. Terrell's a great player. I love playing with him. I think we're a great, 1-2 punch. I think the both of us kind of help each other, allow us to be more instinctual because we take a little bit off of each other's plate. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to be down in the box and have to worry about being in the post at the same time. You know what I'm saying? That's what he had to do his first year in Pittsburgh, before I came in. And, he was moving around on defense a lot and, playing in areas that, it was tough for a young guy to be playing in.
The terrible towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. We weighed our circumstances. We weighed our circumstances, not only the tangible element of our circumstances, but the intangible quality that makes up team. Like I mentioned, when we moved them, we had an opportunity to get value for them, and so that was entertaining and interesting to us. But also, to be quite honest with you and blunt, Melvin no longer wanted to be here. And for us, we prefer volunteers as opposed to hostages. And we believe that that's a formula that really allows us to come together in ways that you can't measure, to do the things that we were able to do last week, to smile collectively in the face of adversity and do what's required to get out of stadiums with necessary wins.
All right, that's a Tomlin-ism. We've heard a lot before, but it is pertinent in the case of Melvin Ingram. By the way, Kansas City is 6-0 with him in their roster, but statistically he hasn't done a lot. At least it wouldn't look that way tangibly, but intangibly, apparently he's made a difference with them.
Yeah, and I think, just the depth and having a veteran guy, the presence there, everybody spoke highly in terms of how he integrated himself into the outside linebacker room here. Of course, TJ Watt is just on a different planet, out of this world, as Coach Tomlin referred to him last year. But yeah, in terms of statistics, he only has 1 sack, 10 tackles. He only had 1 sack and 10 tackles here. So.
Right, more snaps, but he hasn't put an indelible impression. And it seems to me like he may be having a hard time understanding this could be the end of his career. So potentially that was an issue here. We'll see. But that's the first time Mike Tomlin has addressed that and said that, he didn't want to be here. One guy who is here and is setting all sorts of records is TJ Watt. As we bring you our BetMGM by the numbers, a franchise record. James Harrison had a tweet the other day, Missy, and congratulated him. 17.5 is impressive, but he could be looking at the all-time record for Michael Strahan.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back here on the Mike Tomlin press conference.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when you play in a game against a guy, and Travis Kelce's on the other sideline, as you guys will this week, you guys kind of take that into okay, they got this guy, he's going to go out and catch whatever he's going to do. Like Kelce. Do you say, okay, we got to try to carry our weight as well in this kind of matchup, and maybe not match what he does, but at least try to mitigate some of what he does?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, as a competitor, there's always that little bit of, I respect him obviously, and he's an all-pro tight end, and so it'll be really fun stepping out on the field with him and trying to see if I can, do some things that he's able to do. Obviously, he's prolific, and he's going to be something our defense is going to have to scheme up for sure. But I'm excited to definitely be on the same field as him and be on opposing sidelines, and kind of get to watch him and see if I can emulate some of the stuff he does.
Brian Backfoot posted that.
Zach, obviously your first 2 seasons in the league, you guys didn't finish those regular seasons the way you wanted to. Now here in 2021, you need to, basically you play your best ball here at the end of the season. What did you learn from the last couple of years, either individually, or what do you feel like you guys kind of learned as a team to not have one of those, late season skids?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things in the NFL, you hit, certain strides, and the season's never over. That's the biggest thing that I've learned. I think our team has learned is, whether you're 11 or 12-0 or whatever we were last year going into the end, or trying to make a run here at the end of the season this year, anything can happen basically. I mean, we're looking at a situation where we keep winning and it looks like we'll be in, and so we're just gonna take it game by game. And I guess the biggest thing that I and maybe we have learned is just, it's anything can happen. And so we just got to do our jobs.
All right, welcome back. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews. We're talking about the linebacking play, and TJ Watt, of course, with a franchise record now, 17.5 sacks. Alex Highsmith got back into it. He was coming off an injury. But some of these guys who've taken over for Melvin Ingram have done pretty well. In fact, Taco Sunday produced a tip pass, which resulted in one of those 4 interceptions.
Yeah, in the fourth quarter there, he was able to tip it. Joe Schobert was able to catch it, an interception that resulted in a Steelers field goal. And then the defense's next series, Ryan Tannehill just kind of fumbled it, and TJ Watt, he's one of those guys that always goes to the ball, was able to come out with it and score another field goal. And, we know how the rest of the game played out, but those were, they were 3 and would have liked them to be 7, but that was huge in terms of game flow.
Yeah, that's one of the things that this week has to change, I would think. You can't just get turnovers and settle for 3. Sometimes, having Chris Boswell is a luxury, and you don't want to mess up an opportunity to cash in points, but at the same time, against Kansas City, I think Mike Tomlin talked about it, you're going to have to score in the 30s probably to win that game.
Right, and on the other side, in terms of the defense, he said you have to hold Mahomes and company. Travis Kelce, of course, he's in the COVID protocol, but they still have other weapons on that offense, so you are not going to be able to let them get into the end zone if you want to keep this game at all, competitive and within reach.
And the Chiefs have won 7 in a row, so they're right now the number 1 seed. That's where I think a lot of people thought they would be, at the beginning of the season. The AFC North, on the other hand, is completely wide open. It's going to be drama, if nothing else. I know the league likes this sort of stuff. It means meaningful matchups at the end of the year. It may very well come down to that last game.
Are you not entertained, Pomp?
I'm always entertained by that kind of stuff. And I think that's what they want, right?
It is literally, I think, the epitome of the AFC North. They beat the crap out of each other. It's always close games. It always comes down to the wire. So, yes, I am very sure that game in Baltimore for Week 18 will mean something for sure.
And Cleveland lost last night, in case you missed that game, on a last-second field goal. 16-14 was that final. So they dropped to 7-7, and they had a lot of guys out with COVID, and that's the way it's going to be, apparently, moving forward here with the NFL. We'll talk more about that, and we'll look ahead to the Kansas City Chiefs more as we continue live right here from the Rooney Southside facility, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Towel is twirling, and this atmosphere is very special. It always is for a Steelers game at Heinz
Field. Hey Cam, TJ says nobody on this defense, cares who gets the credit, but it seems it's you, it's him, it's Joe in the mix when things go right. I mean, how important was sort of the contributions of the leaders of this defense today?
Man, we needed contributions by everybody. I know we had some pretty big plays, but, Taco batting the ball up and Joe Sherber catching it. Joe Hayden making some unbelievable plays coming back to us. Derek Tuska playing well. This was a hard-fought game. Was it perfect? No. Gave up too much in the run game. But, we kept it in reach. Offense got a touchdown, got it to 10-13, and then, we got some big turnovers in their side of the field. Really shortened the field, and we were able to get the W because of it.
Nick Farabaugh, the First Sports Now.
Cam, can you talk about what the impact Joe has when he's here on this defense? He talked about how the communication's better when he's in there, but what does Joe bring that's different when he's here than when he's not here?
Joe's a big communicator. He's a seasoned vet that's seen a lot of football. Understands formations, understands what teams are trying to do to us. That comes with a lot of guys that have played this game. You're not only just, playing checkers where, we line it up and just trying to diagnose the run. Already know what's going to happen and where you need to fill. A lot of those passes were very quick. And, you just had to, tackle him and line up again. And look at that last play. That's what Joe did.
The Steelers Pro Shop at Heinz Field has everything you need to show off your Steelers pride. Experience a shopping environment unlike any other. From custom jerseys to terrible towels, sideline gear, and more. There's something black and gold for every fan. Get your Steelers gear directly from the team this year. Visit shop.steelers.com for more information.
Travis Kelce is the best in the business. And the reason he's the best in the business is he is unquestionably the best in the business at run after he catches the ball for a tight end. This is a guy I think that has 580 yards this year on run after alone. His run after numbers make him a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. This guy, what he is a number one receiver. Whether you identify him as a tight end or simply an eligible, he is a number one receiver in our game. His stats this year, but not only this year, but over the course of his career, indicate that the play that he made in overtime last week is indicative of what he's capable of in terms of once he gets the ball in his hands, and that's what makes him and them so dangerous.
Yeah, that was an interesting play, and I kind of figured it would happen. They got possession of the ball right off the bat, and they took it down and scored. This after the Chargers had multiple opportunities to kick field goals, get points, and maybe win a game that was critical for them to lose. They got very, very aggressive, and they paid the price for that. But what about him? 10 catches, 190 yards. You don't see tight ends with 190 yards. 2 touchdowns, he's just impossible at times to guard.
Right, and as Coach said, he is a number one wide receiver, and him and Mahomes just kind of have, that relationship built in terms of knowing what each other is doing or wants to do and being on the same page. He did test positive for COVID on Monday, so he's on that list. Unfortunately, we won't know if he's activated until probably later in the week. But the rules have changed for players. You only need 1 negative test now after you are done with symptoms. But TJ Watt also was on that. We saw him not miss any time and be able to come and play. And it works in the Chiefs' favor, and for Kelsey that it's a home game for them. So you're not so much worrying about the traveling, which we saw happen with Ben Roethlisberger, even though he was still able to make it out in LA on the West Coast.
And it was interesting, Mike Tomlin chose his words. He was asked about stopping. He said that's the wrong word to use. Minimizing is the right word because they're going to be part of the game plan. You know that going in with Mahomes. It's interesting to note that when Kelsey's doing this, Tyreek Hill is also doing this. They have another guy who could stretch the field, makes life easier for him. He had 12 catches last week in this game you're looking at right here.
Right, and I think that's where, Minka Fitzpatrick, Terrell Edmonds come in. Coach talked about them a lot and just, the intangibles that they're bringing of being a duo that has worked together for a number of years now. But Minka, the leading tackler against the Titans, really helping make sure that some of those runs weren't even longer and similar to what we saw against the Vikings in Minnesota. So in terms of just, maybe not the run game from the Chiefs, but yeah, their passing game, they're going to have to really be on point. And hopefully Joe Hayden, who was on a pitch count, could play maybe a few more snaps, and Kansas City will have to wait and see.
Yeah, they need good performances in the middle from Devin Bush, Robert Spillane, Schobert, all of them, in order to minimize what this team can do. And the other thing is you have to score a lot of points. The Steelers had 19 last week. That simply will not get it done against a team like this. A lot on the line as we go down the stretch with 3 games left in this regular season. Who's going to be number 1 seed? Who's going to win this division in the AFC North? Drama like you've never seen in the NFL as we continue right here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. This is the Mike Tomlin press conference.
Ben, I saw you talking with the official after you were hit on that. Was a run play, looked like an RPO. What kind of explanation did you get there, and do you feel like you should be protected on that play?
Yeah, it was just a run play. I didn't try and carry out a fake. I just stood there. The guy hit me square in my chest, so it's not like I was trying to act like I had the ball or anything. I was just standing there, and the ref told me that once the ball's handed off, he looks to the front, to the play side, and I asked him, well, what about the other ref that we have standing back there? He said he was looking at the backside, so he said he'll just have to take a look at it. So that was the explanation I got.
Jerry Dulac.
Ben, was it frustrating that you had those turnovers on short fields, those takeaways, and only just came away with field goals? And also on your quarterback sneak touchdown, you walked off with the ball. You saving that one for that circumstance because of that?
You know what? Extremely frustrating. First question. We felt like there were opportunities and points, obviously, that we couldn't get, that were left out there. We know we can always count on Boz, but obviously we want to put more points, especially the last one, chance to make it a 2-score game. It's extremely, extremely frustrating. Give them credit. They're a good defense. Whether we had a penalty, whether we had a negative rush, whatever it was, we couldn't put the points on the board through a touchdown, and that's very frustrating. And I just kept the ball. There's no real reason. I just had it. One of their guys was talking a lot of trash, so I asked him if he wanted the ball.
Mark Caboli.
Hey, Ben, I wonder if you could just take us through that, the throw you threw to Ray in the end zone, third down. It seems like you went pretty quick on that play. Could you just take us through why that play, why that decision?
I think it was it the towards the open end, like that play?
Yeah, so it was like a 3rd and 7, and you went pretty quick, I think.
We jumped the ball quick with an RPO. They had too many guys in the box, so you kind of have to pick a throw.
We got to take care of the ball. We got to score points. The 19 points that we scored last week, I don't think it's realistic to think that that's going to be enough to get out of the stadium with victory this time around.
And that's going to be certainly a conundrum at this point because the Steelers have only one time this year gone over 30. That was 37 against the Chargers. Knocked on the door against the Bears, but they got to produce points. And the problem is they start slowly. They have to rectify that. But how do you do it if you don't use a no-huddle early in the game, which Mike Tomlin has cited is a problem when you have young offensive linemen?
I think a lot of people, in terms of the no huddle, Ben has to be able to communicate things quickly. Guys have to know exactly what he's talking about, not just the guys up front, but the wide receivers, the tight ends, Najee, whoever is in there with him. And I think there is a lot of that miscommunication. I remember vividly in Minnesota after that embarrassing loss, Dan Moore Jr. came to the podium and said there was just so many communication issues. Now, it was a loud environment. Arrowhead will probably be just as loud, even though it is not a dome. That place is just insane. So I do think that maybe it's something they do have to slowly work into the game as guys are getting more comfortable. I know that's not what people want to hear, but there has to be a reason why they aren't doing it whenever they are able to do it so well at the end.
And quite frankly, they're going to have to come up with big performances from the wide receivers. I think Chase Claypool had just one catch last week. They need Deontay Johnson to go down the field. They need him. Whomever is at tight end to get open.
Washington.
Right. All of them have to come up with better efforts. And so we'll see how that goes with that young offensive line. By the way, Kansas City has a different offensive line too. You might remember they got bullied around in their Super Bowl, so they went out and revamped it, starting with Creed Humphrey, who's their center, a draft pick, and then they've surrounded him with good players. So very interesting to see two different offensive lines go at it this week. It's a 4:25 game on KDK. We'll take a break, come back with more right here as we continue on a Tomlin Tuesday.
Hey, TJ, you guys are really stacking the box trying to stop them to run. You surprised they didn't try to throw a little bit more than they did? I think it was only a handful of times, really.
No, I mean, that's what they do. And I feel like if teams want to try to throw the ball, they also know what the problems they're going to get from us.
Christopher Carter.
TJ, you guys limited Tannehill to like 153 yards to the air, 18 yards on the ground. What went into you guys' game plan to try to keep him out of rhythm and out of flow to really hurt you guys?
I think we were just more focused on stopping the run this week, knowing they were going to stick to it, and then the play pass. I think you got to credit the guys in the back end for sticking with the play pass, not getting too caught up in the run action and stuff like that, and just being able to continue to make pressure and trying to keep him in the pocket as best as we could because we knew that he liked to escape specifically through the middle of the defense in front.
Chris Adamski.
TJ, Taco and Tuska both had splash plays of some sort during the game. Is that good to see from them? Have you seen growth from them, and kind of good to see them be able to make big contributions like that?
Yeah, of course. I know both those guys. Would love to have more reps. They're very selfless guys. I'm really happy to have them in our room, and they make the most out of all the reps that they get. And they're continuing to get better, grow and get better. And Taco on the tip pass with Joe intercepted, it was huge. And then Derek, I think that he said that was his first sack. So we got to find a way to get that football to him, because that was a heck of a strip sack by him. And like I said, it's just such a fun group in our room, and we're just going to continue to learn from each other. We have so much experience in there, and try to grow.
Bo Marcianti.
That final play from the press box, it looked very evident that they were short of the line of game. From your perspective on the field, was it that evident to you?
I was just trying to catch my breath, to be honest with you, and looked up at the jumbotron and pretty much knew that it was short. And if it didn't get called on the field, it was going to get it anyways.
All right, welcome back as we continue. Bob Pompiani, Missy Matthews here, getting set for the Chiefs. Very interesting week. A lot of headbanging going on, a lot of tough assignments for teams in the AFC North. The Steelers are going to have their hands full with Kansas City. However, the Browns, who won or played last night and lost, have a short week. They got to go to Green Bay, and Green Bay still wants the number 1 seed in the NFC. And then while that's going on, you have Ravens-Bengals battle for first place.
A lot of good football to watch these next few weeks, just as the NFL schedules it and likes it. But yeah, the Browns on a short week. They're playing in Green Bay on Christmas Day, so on Saturday. I know I'll be watching it.
That should be fun to watch, and who knows what players are going to be available for the Browns. They had to go with Nick Mullins, who I thought played pretty well last night. But the bottom line is, they found themselves in a situation where now, according to some of these probability charts, they have about a 13% chance of getting into the playoffs, which means they probably have to run the table, and that's not going to be easy. But all of these teams are going to need some help unless they win out. And I don't know if any team could win out in the AFC North right now.
No, it's pretty crazy, but I am singularly focused, as Coach Tomlin would say, on what the Steelers are doing and what their schedule is, because you really do have to take care of your own house before you start looking outside and, looking for help. I think we've all experienced enough of those situations where the Steelers needed to win. They needed something else to happen. And I feel like more times than not, it's not helped them.
We've seen that one day where everybody's on the field watching that.
That was Browns-Ravens.
That was Browns-Ravens, and that was Mayfield with a touchdown pass. Yeah, it was crazy. Hopefully it won't get to that scenario. We'll find out, but it's a big game this week. The Steelers in Kansas City, 4:25 KDK. Our pregame on KDK begins at 11:30 a.m. Postgame follows on CW. Missy, thanks very much. As always, appreciate it.
You got it.
See you on the Mike Tomlin Show, presented by 84 Lumber, this coming Saturday night. So, yes, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you. We'll see you again next week.